Oh, all I eat is meat and greens. That's it. No juice, no vegetables, no carbohydrates. I lost 7 pounds a month for 7 months. That was the first thing, which was just bloody amazing. Yeah, it was unbelievable. So the first thing that happened was I quit snoring. That happened immediately. I had psoriasis. That went away. I had floaters in my right eye, which is also an autoimmune problem. That went away. I have had gum disease for 30 years. That went away. The reason is that they're poisoning themselves with carbohydrates.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the final episode of our reading of Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. Thank God we are done. I am so...
Indeed, thank God.
Today we'll be covering both Chapter 12,
Yep.
Pet a Cat When You See One on the Street, and the coda, because the 12th chapter is the shortest chapter in the book.
About 15 pages each, right?
And the first 2 pages are a complete waste, because he's just talking about, like, I also like dogs. Don't hate me, dog people, because I feel like he felt the need to stretch out the final chapter.
Yeah.
But we'll be doing that, and the coda.
Yeah. So,
Just call him afterward, Jordan.
and then after that, after the coda, we will have our own coda.
Yeah.
So there'll be 2 codas, 1 final chapter. We get the final word, because it's our show. He sold more books than people watch this, though.
Yeah.
So that's okay. I think he wins the long game, but we win the short one, okay? And that's all right. So, first of all, thanks everybody for watching this so far. I want you to stick around, though, whether you have liked this or not, because you're going to have a chance to vote for our next project. So stick around to the end of this episode for that. But first, of course, we must open the final stage, the final leg of this tour de France of a book review.
Now, the reasoning for the title of this is actually, at the very least, it was a respite from the onslaught of just nonsense of Jordan Peterson. This section, Chapter 12, Pet a Cat When You See One on the Street, for the most part is comprised of him talking about his daughter, I believe her name is Michaela, and her health problems growing up.
And his son Julian.
Yeah, and throughout this chapter, he essentially just talks about his concerns as a parent, what it was like to go through this with a child with chronic illness, with chronic pain, and it really...
Who, by the way, she has child rheumatoid arthritis and some other thing going on, and it sounds fucking horrible. Yeah. We made fun of her in the past for having an all-meat diet. I'm pretty sure this didn't help it, but she deserves to be made fun of zero for a thing she can't control as far as her arthritis. It sounds shitty. I have probably an arthritic ankle. I've never been diagnosed, but it hurts like a motherfucker all the time. So yeah, I mean, just having that and then having that throughout your body sounds like it sucks. He sounds like a real, genuine, concerned parent, human being person.
For the most part, it humanizes him, but there are some odd things that I feel the need to point out when we're talking about this chapter. So, let's see. First of all, here's this. A 3-year-old is easily damaged. Dogs can bite them. Cars can hit them. Mean kids can push them over. He can get sick, and sometimes did. Julian was prone to high fevers and delirium. They sometimes produce. Sometimes I had to take him into the shower with me and cool him off when he was hallucinating, or even fighting with me in his feverish state. If your kid has a fever to the point that they're hallucinating, probably take him to the emergency room.
Go to the hospital. I was reading this live on Twitch, which is usually what I do because I just can't do this. I can't sit here and do this alone, or I will lose all faith in humanity. Everybody in my chat was like, should we go to the hospital, Jordan? It's free in fucking Canada. Although I did give a caveat. I think maybe at the time they were in Boston.
Okay.
And so maybe I understand why he didn't go to an American hospital, because his child would have been dead and he would be in debt.
Traveler insurance exists. If I was Canadian and I was traveling to the States, I would definitely get the traveler's insurance.
Yeah. But it was weird. I don't think as a parent it's weird to take your child into the shower. However, that is not the part that was weird.
No.
Unless he got unless he took his clothes off to do it, which would be strange. Like wear some trunks if you have to. But no, I think I've had fevers when I was a kid, and I feel like I remember getting into cold showers.
Sure.
To try to bring that down, or cold baths or something. So yeah, that's pretty normal. Or in Michigan, we just get tossed outside in the snow, like the soda. I mean pop.
Oh God.
You ever see people put their like 2 liters in a bank of snow?
I've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
It's a free freezer. Thanks,
Yeah.
nature.
But with children.
Yeah. This next part, he relates to this patient. He has this patient who also has, I believe, their
Husband has cancer.
Yeah, so they share kind of a story together, and Jordan tells her this story, trying to explain why life has so much suffering in it, or can have so much suffering in it. I told her an old Jewish story, which I believe is part of the commentary on the Torah. It begins with a question, structured like a Zen koan. Imagine a being who is omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. What would such a being lack? The answer, limitation. If you are already everything, everywhere, always, there is nowhere to go and nothing to be. Everything that could be already is, and everything that could happen already has. And it is for this reason, so the story goes, that God created man. No limitation, no story, no being. That idea has helped me with the terrible fragility of being. It helped my client too. I don't want to overstate the significance of this. I don't want to claim that somehow it makes it okay. She still faced the cancer afflicting her husband, just as I still faced my daughter's terrible illness. But there's something to be said for recognizing that existence and limitation are inextricably linked. This is interesting, and he'll go on to talk about this a little bit later, how existence involves the inherent limitations of existing as a human being, and the fact that we die, we get old, we get sick, we have challenges or whatever. But throughout this chapter, I think he a little bit puts the cart before the horse. For instance, a little bit later, he's going to talk about Superman. And how the stories of Superman got very boring around the Silver Age of comics.
A thing I agree with.
Yeah, because he's such a powerful being with so many powers, it became a Deus Ex Machina all the time. He could do anything.
Often people's critique of Superman in general is he's too powerful. So, I mean, it's not like he's I don't know, treading new ground here, but yeah.
But he uses it to sort of say, well, life would not have any meaning if we didn't have any challenges. And to an extent, that's true, but I think he's, again, putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah.
The reason that a story about Superman being far too powerful isn't interesting to us is because we can't relate to it. If we were super powerful beings with very few challenges, we probably would enjoy stories that we relate to in such a way that they have very few challenges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also the criticisms he has here about... not even criticisms, he just states it as if you are omnipotent, omniscient, there was nothing else for you to do. It's interesting that he brings up these questions and these implications of what a god would even be, but then later in the coda, he goes super hard for Jesus. So, it's interesting that he's aware of these things, but doesn't apply it to his own faith, seemingly.
Yeah, I don't know, it seems weird that also the only thing that a being like that lacks is limitation, when really it lacks like need, desire, like it lacks a lot of different things, not just limitation. You could, I guess maybe he would argue that all these things are represented by limitation, maybe.
Sure.
But even so, it seems a little reductive. Like he often does this where he'll like talk about something like really crazy, magnificent, or like a god, something on a super high level, and then he'll be like, "This is the thing about that thing," and then it's like really cut into the stone, and like that's the only way. This opinion is immutable, and then he'll change that opinion like a paragraph later.
Yeah.
It always reads really odd when you read Jordan Peterson like this. A lot of the time I was thinking, what's this have to do with cats? Because this is pet a cat when you see one.
Yeah.
The end of it at least wraps it up like usual.
Yeah. Okay, then the next part, this is just a nitpick, but he says, this is in regard to the Superman vs. Spider-Man comic that came out in 1976. But Marvel had to augment Spider-Man's powers for the battle to remain plausible. That broke the rules of the game. Spider-Man is Spider-Man because he has the powers of a spider. If he is suddenly granted any old powers, he's not Spider-Man. The plot falls apart.
He doesn't have just the powers of a spider. Spidey sense.
That's also not exactly what happens in the comic. What happens is Dr. Octopus and
Here we go.
and Lex Luthor, shut up, and Lex Luthor team up, and they're like, oh, and by the way, in this comic, they just pretend that Spider-Man and Superman exist in the same universe.
Which is fine, it was a crossover, fuck it.
It was like the first crossover between Marvel and DC. There was no precedent at the time. Anyway, what happens is Lex Luthor hits Spider-Man with a red sunbeam gun.
Sure.
Because it was 1976 and comics were very stupid.
Oh yeah, they just now got cool.
Shut up! Anyway, I feel like it's a little different than saying, I don't feel like Spider-Man got, like, Superman powers there. It was essentially to just even the playing field. They could have hit Superman with a kryptonite ray or something, probably would have made more sense, just to, like, depower him a little bit to make it Spider-Man's level, but whatever. Yeah,
but, I mean, the borderline precognitive abilities of a Spider-Man would be very useful, except Superman can punch faster than light! So it's not even really a fight. I don't know. It just seems silly.
Yeah. They did better crossovers later. Anyway. A superhero who can do anything turns out to be no hero at all. He's nothing specific, so he's nothing. He has nothing to strive against, so he can't be admirable. Being of any reasonable sort appears to require limitation. Perhaps this is because being requires becoming, as well as mere static existence, and to become is to become something more. Or at least something different. That is only possible for somewhat limited. I disagree again. I think he's extrapolating more than needs to be. Being does not necessitate limitations. Yeah. It's just all we know because of entropy, because of how...
I agree.
But that doesn't mean that in the theoretical, a being couldn't exist that's like that. There doesn't seem to be one, but what I'm saying is, I don't know if it's inherent to the human experience to experience disease. Like, tomorrow, if all diseases were cured, I don't think as humans we lose something beneficial. You know what I mean?
I would agree as well. Yeah, because he's operating in the philosophical right here, so he needs to entertain other hypotheticals.
Yeah.
That he doesn't. Again, this is something he does all the time, where he'll make a claim in the philosophical realm, where in philosophy you can be like, but what if?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the test of philosophy. But he doesn't seem to like entertain those ideas whatsoever, to the contrary of whatever he's talking about. So it always comes across as really preachy, which is very...
It's on brand.
It's on brand for the fucking final 30 pages of this book. Yeah, I didn't find much use in this, whereas sometimes I find, like, some of the advice he gives for some of this, I can see how you could be like, oh, that's good advice. It's usually platitudinous, but, like, this doesn't really offer the reader, like, anything workable.
No.
It's just sort of like, well, I said 12 rules. I might as well write about something.
No. Continuing on, he says, but is there any coherent alternative given the self-evident horrors of existence? Can being itself, with its malarial mosquitoes, child soldiers, and degenerative neurological diseases, truly be justified? I'm not sure I could have formulated a proper answer to such a question in the 19th century, before the totalitarian horrors of the 20th were monstrously perpetuated on millions of people.
Take a drink!
Yep.
Everybody drink. Anytime he brings up the Holocaust or Stalin or Dostoevsky or anything, like, there's lots of drinks to be had in this last chapter.
I don't know that it's possible to understand why such doubts are morally impermissible without the fact of the Holocaust and the Stalinist purges and Mao's catastrophic Great Leap Forward. And I also don't think it is possible to answer the questions by thinking.
Oh,
thinking
God.
leads inexorably to the abyss.
I tweeted this.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Thinking leads inexorably to the abyss. Calm the fuck down.
It did not work for Tolstoy. It might not even have worked for Nietzsche, who arguably thought more clearly about such things than anyone in history. Again, it's all or nothing with him. He's got to, like, crank everything to 1,000. But if it is not thinking that can be relied upon in the direst of situations, what is left? Thought, after all, is the highest human achievement, is it not? Perhaps not. Something supersedes thinking, despite its truly awesome power. When existence reveals itself as existentially intolerable, thinking collapses in on itself. In such situations, in its depths, it's noticing, not thinking, that does the trick. Perhaps you might start by noticing this. When you love someone, it's not despite their limitations, it's because of their limitations.
Holy shit, that is so wrong.
No, so don't think, but notice, which implies observing something,
taking that information into account, and then synthesizing that information so that you may notice a thing about it that applies directly to you, which is thinking.
That's thinking, Jordan. You've just
thinking.
You've just philosophized yourself in a fucking circle.
Yeah,
360.
It means nothing.
You wound up right back again. This final chapter is just like, I don't know.
See, you could say like, rather than I don't know, like I don't think you should be like, noticing is some higher level of thinking. No, but you could say that like, hey, instead of just like trying to exercise your will upon the things that are happening, try taking time to notice. Try taking time to observe your surroundings and maybe think upon and self-reflect. Like that seems like a reasonable way of going about that paragraph, but instead he like. Again, he always tries to like hierarchy different modes of thought, and this is just it falls under the umbrella of thought. Therefore, thought can't be underneath it. You can't like noticing doesn't happen before thought. It's so fucking weird. It's so weird.
So now we get to the next section, and that is.
You ever seen an old guy? And they're like,
I have seen an old guy.
And you walk past them, and they look real angry for no reason.
Yeah.
This is like if that person started talking.
Yeah.
Out loud. Hey, Jordan, everything's fucking okay. All right? Quit bitching. This is the part of the chapter where he just bitches for no reason all the time, constantly. It was so negative and annoying. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with petting cats until the very last, like, 2 paragraphs, which are detached from the rest of you bitching. I feel like you just wanted to tell us about a bad time in your family's life, so you wanted to bitch. Go get a therapist yourself. We're not that. This is not what we buy the book. You're supposed to help other people. This isn't helping anyone. This is just you. This is self-help. Self-help. Fuck.
This is after he talks a little bit about his daughter Michaela's arthritis and her constant pain.
And kind of the management of that pain with different medications.
Our rheumatologist, instrumental in producing Michaela's remission, hit her limit of courage when dealing with our child's pain. She had once prescribed opiates to a young girl who became addicted. She swore never to do it again and said, "Have you tried ibuprofen?" Michaela learned then that doctors don't know everything. Ibuprofen was for her a crumb of bread for a starving man.
Okay, we understand the pain is a lot, but like the doctor isn't like, I don't want to help your child. The doctor's like, I don't want you to have a drug-addicted child.
And what's even odder is he still points this out and almost chastises the doctor within that paragraph. But then later on, which we will read a little bit later, he talks about when she gets off opiates, which she actually does get from a different doctor.
She has like withdrawals.
The horrifying withdrawal symptoms. Like the awful train spotting withdrawal symptoms.
Puking and
ants, feeling like ants are crawling over your skin. Like
crawling under your skin upside down.
Yeah, like, have you not considered maybe those are the things the doctor was concerned about? I understand, again, completely that your daughter had chronic pain issues. I wonder what he thinks about, like, treating things with CBD and medical marijuana.
I don't know.
Because he seems pretty anti-pot earlier in the book when he talks about
He's pro-psilocybin, though.
Is he?
For smoking cessation.
Okay.
In his debate with Matt.
Okay. So I don't know.
I don't know. Is he against weed? Because, he denigrates everybody in this book that smokes it. Yeah. Maybe he turned a new leaf after writing this book. I have no idea. Maybe he was with Joe Rogan for just a little bit. Yeah. And Joe is just constantly smoking. So, yeah, maybe that was it. I don't know.
We talked to a new doctor. He listened carefully, then he helped Michaela. First, he prescribed T3s, the same medication her grandfather had briefly shared. He mentioned earlier in the chapter that a grandfather had come and he had shared some of his prescription with her. This was brave. Physicians face a lot of pressure to avoid the prescription of opiates, not least children.
Mm-hmm. That's Tylenol 3 with codeine, by the way, which I've taken, and it made me bite a hole through my lip.
Ah.
Like, well, it didn't make me, but I was just, like, chewing on my lip. Yeah. So after a car accident, when I was, like, 13, right before freshman year in high school, and I had never been on anything. I'm a child, and I still have a little scar tissue right here where I almost bit clean through my lip.
Disgusting.
It wasn't disgusting until I found out I was doing it.
Yeah. What I want to point out here is it's interesting to me that he finds the doctor prescribing opiates to his child to be brave, but the doctor who didn't because she had previously had a patient who was addicted is not brave. This, I think, goes to show the thought process of Jordan, generally speaking.
Yeah.
If someone agrees with Jordan and does what Jordan thinks is the right thing, they're brave for standing by their principles. If someone stands by principles that Jordan disagrees with, they're fucking trash. You know what I mean?
And part of me wants to empathize with them, or sympathize, I guess can't empathize. Like, his daughter is suffering from daily pain, and it's chronic, and he wants it to alleviate, so part of me thinks irrationality is to be expected, but he's being retrospective right now.
Yeah.
He's looking back, and he still holds these thoughts.
Yep.
If she had never become unaddicted from opiates, would he write this chapter again? I don't know.
It seems like he's not able to take a critical eye at his own experiences.
It seems not, even though in the coda he will say that he definitely can.
Yeah. We spent weeks and then months desperately investigating all sorts of replacement devices, trying to assess their suitability. We looked everywhere for quicker surgery. India, China, Spain, the UK, Costa Rica, Florida. We contacted the Ontario Provincial Ministry of Health. They were very helpful.
This is them trying to seek out an ankle replacement for Michaela due to her extreme pain with the joint due to her arthritis.
Yeah.
By the way, very privileged take.
Yeah.
We're looking all over the world for an ankle surgery, which is, I mean, granted, it's going to fix some pain, right? But it's not like life-saving.
Yeah.
Very, very, and he doesn't really understand that that's like a privileged, like he has the opportunity to look at these things. And
but
he comes
socialism bad.
He comes from a very beautiful socialist country in Canada, where they can get this kind of health care.
Socialized health care.
Well, that's what I mean, but it's, you know, in any way that this would be affected, it is the socialism in which he would operate.
Yep.
So, I don't know, but socialism bad.
When she returned home in less pain, Michaela started to taper off the opiates. She hated OxyContin, despite its evident utility. She said it turned her life gray. Perhaps that was a good thing under the circumstances. Yikes. Jordan, maybe listen to your daughter when she says that the opiates are bad for her. Dude, come on. She stopped using it as soon as possible. She suffered through withdrawals for months. Months! The night sweating and formication, the sensation of ants crawling upside down under her skin, she became unable to experience any pleasure. That was another effect of opiate withdrawal. I don't understand how he can write that paragraph, and in the previous paragraph, shit talk the doctor.
So strange.
Have some self-awareness, Jordan.
It's
okay it's completely okay for you to be like, wow, these things are bad, but she still needed them. But to not understand where the doctor was coming from is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just another one of those symptoms of how Jordan Peterson thinks, I think, and kind of how he expresses himself. He seems to think, like, I was right during this time, and I remain so. But he was definitely wrong.
Sufficient unto the day are the evils thereof. That's Matthew 6:34. It is often interpreted as, live in the present, without a care for tomorrow. This is not what it means. That injunction must be interpreted in the context of the Sermon on the Mount, of which it is an integral part. That sermon distills the 10 thou shalt nots of the commandments of Moses into a single prescriptive thou shalt. Christ enjoins his followers to place faith in God's heavenly kingdom and the truth. That's a conscious decision to presume the primary goodness of being. That's an act of courage. Aim high like Pinocchio's Geppetto, wish upon a star, then act properly in accordance with that aim. Does that speak for itself? I don't know.
You ever invoke Jesus' Sermon on the Mount
and then
buttress it with some Geppetto and a song a cricket sang once? It seems so oddly placed. Because what he's trying to do in this chapter is he's like, you remember the other stuff I brought up in the rest of the book? Here's a callback. Like he's ending a phase of Avengers. Like, this is the big moment when they all come out of the woodwork and help defend the world.
Yeah. Ugh. When you meet a cat on the street, many things can happen. If I see a cat at a distance, for example, the evil part of me wants to startle it with a loud sound, front teeth over bottom lip.
What the fuck is wrong with you? What this is something that Jordan Peterson does all the time. He will write something like when I blah, 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 blank, and he'll be like, here's the bad shit I think about all the time. And it's like, no, Jordan, don't tell the woman that she deserved to be raped. Don't spook cats for no reason. What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
He's a fucking psycho.
It's so weird. It's also weird that he's like, surely people will empathize with this intrusive thought I often have, and it's like, bruh, you need some help. Because it's very strange for you to have these like, I want to abuse a cat, like, thoughts. No.
Maybe I shouldn't laugh at cats, but it's hard to resist. The fact that they can be startled is one of the best things about them, along with the fact that they are instantly disgruntled and embarrassed by their overreaction.
Sure.
I'm not gonna say I don't find, like, cats, like...
Everybody likes, like fucking with their animals a little bit, like...
But not like,
you walk up, like my dog, you walk up to Darwin and you go, I'm gonna get you. Then he starts freaking out because he likes to play chase.
Yeah.
But it's not, like, abusive. Like, I don't walk up to my cat and go, boof, and punch her off the couch just to see her be like, what the fuck, man? Like...
Yeah. This part is actually not a terrible part of the chapter. I mostly agreed with this.
I think I agree with this as well.
Yeah. If you pay careful attention, even on a bad day, you may be fortunate enough to be confronted with small opportunities of just that sort. Maybe you'll see a little girl dancing on the street because she is all dressed up in a ballet costume. Maybe you will have a particularly good cup of coffee in a cafe that cares about their customers. Maybe you can steal 10 or 20 minutes to do some little ridiculous thing that distracts you, or reminds you that you can laugh at the absurdity of existence. Personally, I like to watch The Simpsons episodes at 1.5 times regular speed, all the laughs 2/3 of the time.
The last thing seems like a very Jordan Peterson, whatever Jordan Peterson's brand of social malformation.
Yeah.
But the rest of that, this is basically what he was trying to get to when he says, when you see a cat on the street, pet it, or a dog or whatever, like try to enjoy a little thing during the day.
Yeah.
That's not what he says for most of the chapter. There's about 13 pages of this chapter that have nothing to do with it, and the first and last sort of do. So I agree with that. You know, spending time doing things that you enjoy, give yourself a little reprieve during stressful days or normal days, just something that you enjoy, should be good. Even, you know, maybe it's watching one of these videos at 2 times speed.
Yeah, whatever.
All the laughs, half the timing.
Yeah. And then the chapter just ends with him saying, pet a cat when you encounter it on the street, and then there's a little PS where he just says, like, hey, Michaela's doing pretty well now. A physical therapist did a thing with her ankle, and it, like, a bone popped, like, into a place where it apparently wasn't supposed to be, and it made her feel much better, so good for her.
So that's cool. Like, I have no ill will towards Michaela Peterson.
As an individual person, I am very glad she's doing better.
Until she started to peddle her
meat diet
to people that says it will cure your depression. That's a yikes for me, dog, but doesn't matter how many yikeses I have, because the next section is, it's sort of like a musical number.
So this section is the coda, the afterword. And Jordan Peterson is going to do his best to proselytize to you about why being a Christian is good without saying it. Because for some, I would respect, if he if he was just like, hey, I'm a Christian, I think it'd be good for you to be one too. I wouldn't agree, but I'd respect the honesty, and at least he's being open about what he's doing. Here it seems like he's doing his best to do you know those games when you're a kid where it's like, kind of like Operation, but it's like a ring around a wire, and you gotta, like, not touch the sides. It's a little bit like that. Or like the not touching you game, which I think we used earlier as a comparison.
I don't know, like... He's been toying with... Is this the part of the book that, like, PewDiePie was like, I didn't realize he was religious until the end? It's like, he's been talking about this the whole time, except now he just does it in such rapid succession that you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is if you thought the rest of the book was overt Christian pandering, then you need to read this coda yourself, because I don't even know if we can do it justice reading excerpts of it.
Yeah.
It's literally like, boom, 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 Christ, Matthew, Jesus, like, holy shit. What a bad one. Yeah. What a bad one.
He starts by telling a story about how in late 2016 he was meeting with a colleague or a friend in Northern California. At one point, he took a pen from his jacket pocket and took a few notes. It was LED equipped and beamed light out of its tip, so that writing in the dark was made easier. Just another gadget, I thought. Later, however, in a more metaphorical frame of mind, I was struck quite deeply by the idea of a pen of light. There was something symbolic about it, something metaphysical.
You just can't not.
You know.
I don't know why. I mean, it must be the way just he conceptualizes various concepts, but he just can't get away from, like, kind of being stuck up his own ass with metaphors he thinks he made up.
Yeah. We're all in the dark, after all, much of the time. We could all use something written with light to guide us along our way. Oh, what could that be? I told him I wanted to do some writing. While we sat and conversed, I asked him if he would give me the pen, as a gift.
Who does that?
Who's like,
hey,
that thing that's yours, clearly, can I have that? I would like that now.
As a gift.
That's not
Which means I'm not giving it back. It's mine.
Jordan, what a bizarre thing to do, even to a friend. I would never be like if I saw Jake writing with something I thought was cool, I'd never be like, that's cool,
like,
Jake.
hey, can I see the pen?
Yeah.
Like, I do have a cool pen over there. I think it's
Sure.
the one with the feather on the quill.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've looked at that, but you didn't go like,
Can I have that as a gift?
Can I have that pen as a gift? Hey, I know that thing you like. Can I have it?
When he handed it over, I found myself inordinately pleased.
Oh!
I'm sure you did. You stole something from your friend while asking, basically. Now I could write illuminated words in the darkness. Or be in a room with a light, Jordan.
Go to Amazon! Like, light pen. Boom.
Obviously, it was important to do such a thing properly, so I said to myself in all seriousness, what shall I do with my newfound pen of light? There are 2 verses in the New Testament that pertain to such things. I've thought about them a lot. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks, the door will be opened. Matthew chapter 7, verses 7.
Walter White, season 4.
Sure. At first glance, this seems like nothing but a testament to the magic of prayer. Yeah, kind of. In the sense of entreating God to grant favors. But God, whatever or whoever he may be, is no simple granter of wishes. When tempted by the devil himself in the desert, as we saw in Rule 7, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient, even Christ himself was not willing to call upon his Father for a favor. Furthermore, every day the prayers of desperate people go unanswered, but maybe this is because the question they contain are not phrased in the proper manner. Perhaps it's not reasonable to ask God to break the rules of physics every time we fall by the wayside, or make a serious error. Perhaps, in such times, you can't put the cart before the horse and simply wish for your problem to be solved in some magical manner. Perhaps you could ask instead what you might have to do right now to increase your resolve, buttress your character, and find the strength to go on. Perhaps you could instead ask to see the truth. So this is just straight up, basically, apologetics. Why do prayers not get answered? There's nothing metaphorical about that. Certainly he's going to go on a little bit to be like, hey, do your own thing. But very specifically, this is about prayer and how it works, or rather how it doesn't work.
At best, you could call it, like, the secret brand of, like, cosmic begging.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's... it also has this section, and we'll be reading it, like, ask your prayer and then answer the prayer yourself, as if that's how one ought to best pray.
Sure.
It's very strange. He's also, by the way, he's doing this just sitting across from his friend.
Yeah.
What a weird friend. I was in a Barnes & Noble once. I was looking for D&D books, and I overheard a Bible study. I was sitting there with a Bible study, and all of these things sound very similar to that Bible study. Yeah. I don't know why he refuses to label himself as such, unless it's for monetary reasons only.
I think so.
But
I also think he thinks he'll be able to get more people if he kind of disguises what he's doing. You know what I mean?
is that a disguise?
Apparently, for people like
It's
PewDiePie.
like it's like a wolf wearing a human like a Ronald Reagan snap-on plastic mask.
I don't
and going,
disagree.
I am a human. It's a very impressive wolf that can speak, but nonetheless, it's still clearly the rest of it's a wolf.
I don't know. He talks a little bit about couples arguing, and then he says, then you can go back to your partner and reveal why you're an idiot and apologize sincerely, and that person can do the same for you. And then apologize sincerely, and then you two idiots will be able to talk again. Perhaps that is true prayer. The question, what have I done wrong, and what can I do now to set things at least a little bit more right? But your heart must be open to the terrible truth. You must be receptive to that which you do not want to hear.
I think that's decent advice in a vacuum, but he coats it with this religious sort of icing on top, which is pretty strange. But yeah, I think if two people if you have an argument that seems, that you can't reconcile, that's probably best. But I also think in the context of the book, that particular passage is for the radical centrist reading the book.
Sure.
So like if you can't agree on something, then maybe you're both wrong. Like when it comes to women's reproductive rights, or when it comes to gay marriage, like calling it a civil union instead of a marriage, like this is the kind of stuff that one ought not make a middle ground for, because there's some things you just plain need, and I don't know. This kind of shit emboldens his centrist fans, of which most say they are.
In that spirit, with some paper in front of me, I asked my question. What shall I do with my newfound pen of light? It's just a pen with a light on it, dude. Calm down. I asked as if I truly wanted an answer. I waited for a reply. I was holding a conversation between two different elements of myself. I was genuinely thinking or listening in the sense described in Rule 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. That rule can apply as much to yourself as to others. It was me, of course, who asked the question, and it was me, of course, who replied. But those two me's were not the same. I did not know what the answer would be. I was waiting for it to appear in the theater of my imagination. I was waiting for the words to spin out of the void. How can a person think up something that surprises him? How can he already not know what he thinks? Where do these new thoughts come from? Who or what thinks them? To me, that's sort of begging the question and implying some sort of a divine or supernatural force or something.
This is his way of I don't know, putting the cape over the face.
Yeah.
He always begs the question in regards to, like, I don't know, if I pray, do you think it'll work? I don't know.
Yeah. It's just the fact that he says, who or what thinks them.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a question you would ask if you're not already looking at this from a theistic point of view and trying to get a theistic point across.
You wouldn't ask a lot of the questions, specifically the questions that he'll frame about his wife and his son later on are like...
Yes.
Those are just Christians.
Yeah.
She's just being a Christian. Which, again, is totally fine. I just wish he was honest about it, because it makes him come across as extremely snaky when he doesn't.
Yep. The next question ended the first set. What shall I do with my life? Aim for paradise and concentrate on today. Ha! I knew what that meant. It's what Geppetto does in the Disney movie Pinocchio when he wishes upon a star. The grandfatherly woodcarver lifts up his eyes to the twinkling diamond set high above the mundane world of day-to-day human concerns and articulates his deepest desire. That the marionette he creates loose the strings by which he is manipulated by others and transform himself into a real boy. It's also the central message of the Sermon on the Mount, as we saw in Rule 4. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. But, which deserves repeating here, and then he just does some more of the Sermon on the Mount, which I'm not going to read because it's just like a block of text that's the Sermon on the Mount.
We read it in our Bible study.
Yeah. Next, we get to the stuff about his daughter and son.
Oh man,
yeah.
These start to come out rapid fire. If you want to just show them the book real quick. They can't read it, but like this just starts to happen. Like, oh, it's bad.
What shall I do with my daughter? Stand behind her, listen to her, guard her, train her mind.
That sounds okay.
Yeah. And let her know it's okay if she wants to be a mother.
Okay, I mean,
no one says it's not.
Yes, but like, no,
He doesn't...
This implies the opposite is true of some people. Like, don't be a mom! Like liberals who don't want children.
I don't care if people want to be moms.
I don't care if you want to be moms. Like, if you want to be a mom, that's the type of person I want to have a kid.
It just comes off as weird to me, because when he talks about his son a little bit later, it's not like he says, I'll tell him it's okay to be a father. Right. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Because, well, once you're a mom, that's your shit. Yeah. That's your job.
What shall I do with my parents? Act such that your actions justify the suffering they endured. What shall I do with my son? Encourage him to be a true son of God. Yeah. To honor your wife as a mother of God is to notice and support the sacred elements of her role as mother, not just of your children, but as such. A society that forgets this cannot survive. This is the most bizarre thing I think he's written in the entire book, what I'm about to read.
Take a drink, because it's about to happen.
Hitler's mother gave birth to Hitler. Yeah. And Stalin's mother to Stalin. Was something amiss in their crucial relationships? It seems likely, given the importance of the maternal role in establishing trust. To take a single vital example, perhaps the importance of their motherly duties, and of their relationship with their children, was not properly stressed. Perhaps what the women were doing in their maternal guise was not properly regarded by their husband, father, and society alike. Who instead might a woman produce if she was treated properly, honorably, and carefully?
Okay, so...
Is he saying that he thinks that, like, liberal society in Germany in, like, 1890 or whenever the fuck Hitler was born is responsible for Hitler because his mother wasn't supported as a mother? Because that's a ridiculous statement. Same with the Stalin thing. Also, is he kind of blaming the Holocaust on Hitler's mom as opposed to Hitler? Or the rest of the Nazi party?
Well, yeah, a little bit. He plays a little bit of lip service there, like, maybe the men were... But it's their job to, like, tell the mother, like, to recorrect the mother. And the mother's job is to rear the child properly so that you don't get Hitlers and Stalins. I mean, guys, this is the type of shit this guy is writing just when I think we're finally to, like, woo, we finally got, like, 30 pages where, sure, there's some nitpicky stuff I disagree with, like, I don't like his language, and then he says, well, it's Hitler's mom and Stalin's mom's fault. They are chaos. They are chaos.
To recognize the importance of having a family and children and to forego the temptation to denigrate or devalue that in comparison to accomplishment of personal ambition or career, it's not for noticing that the Holy Mother and Infant is a divine image. As we just discussed, societies that cease to honor that image, that cease to see the relationship as of transcendent and fundamental importance, also ceases to be.
So so this is...
What is he talking
Women
about?
need to be mothers.
Yeah.
And instead, don't go get a career, don't have personal ambition. That is fine for some people, but most women need to be mothers, and we need good mothers. Mothers that don't create Hitlers and Stalins. Mothers that create Jesuses, like my son, Julian, who is Jesus. Like, holy shit. We're not writing he wrote this. How can you, Jordan Peterson fan and atheist, still be those things? You can be a Jordan Peterson fan, but you better be flirting with Christianity at this point. Holy shit.
To encourage my son to be a true son of God, that is to want him, above all, to do what is right, and to strive to have his back while he is doing so. That is, I think, part of the sacrificial message. To value and support your son's commitment to transcendent good above all things. Not your daughter, though. Fuck your daughter's moral compass. She doesn't have agency to do things in the world. Sons go out and do things. Women stay home and raise men to go do things.
Yes.
Yikes.
This is trad life, but like on the opiates his daughter used to take. Like, it's fucking...
This is the most self-important... Like, I don't think Jordan... There are a lot of people I think might be narcissists, like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I don't think Jordan Peterson is a narcissist, generally.
I think he can definitely be one.
This is flirting with narcissism, this statement. What shall I do with a torn nation? Stitch it back together with careful words of truth. The importance of this injunction has, if anything, become clearer over the past few years. We are dividing and polarizing and drifting towards chaos. It is necessary under such conditions, if we are to avoid catastrophe, for each of us to bring forward the truth as we see it, not the arguments that justify our ideologies, not the machinations that further our ambitions, but the stark, pure facts of our existence, revealed for others to see and contemplate, so that we can find common ground and proceed together. You consider, like, university students fucking socialists, and you hate them for it, dude. What are you talking about? Again, this comes down to, he's all for togetherness, and coming... By the way, the first thing of the thing where he's like, what shall I do with the torn nation? I feel like he has a little bit of a messiah complex where he's like, I'm gonna speak the harsh truths and fix this country. Being Canada, because he's Canadian. But, this idea that he wants people to come together and just agree on the truth. It's not like he wants people to come together and find some consensus. He wants people to come together under
find his truth.
They want them to come together under the banner of what he considers to be true, and that is a very stratified, very fine not fine line, very thick, bold line between gender roles. Yeah. That is what he sees as the proper way to come together.
It's like a hierarchy within the hierarchy. So like he sees like this quasi-spiritual Judeo-Christian spirituality at the top, right? And then trad life, like traditional familial organization, as far as like the father is the breadwinner, the mother is the mother, the son is about to be a father, or and he goes and does stuff, and he is your little Jesus. And then the daughter can also do stuff, but definitely she should be considering motherhood. And then underneath your family, you have like the kind of job you have, and then your responsibility to like take these top two things and use those to further a message that will make sure other people do those things.
Sure.
It's proselytization for the modern age. It's sneaky Christianity for those who...
It's sneaky compared to someone like Lee Strobel.
Oh, yeah. It's a sheep in wolf's clothing, wolf and sheep's clothing. It's, I don't know. It's probably a little more elaborate than that. Like, there's also a business front, and maybe you'll have an actual sheep at the reception desk, and then Jordan Peterson's back there. Yeah. I understand why it's lucrative, though. Christians buy into this. Atheists that think they're radical centrists buy into this. Chuds, right-wingers fall into this kind of shit too, because he hits some notes pretty perfectly as far as like the rhetoric that really is valuable to those people. It's effective.
Yep. He, like many people, is riding the anti-PC culture wave straight to the fucking mansion he has, and
I guess it's lucrative. Good for them.
No, bad for everyone.
Bad for everyone, good for them.
I guess. This section is interesting. What shall I do when I ruin my rivers, seek for the living water, and let it cleanse the earth?
Okay, that's Ray Comfort's brand.
I found this question, as well as its answer, particularly unexpected. It seems most associated with Rule 6, set your house in order before whatever the world. Perhaps our environmental problems are not best construed technically. Maybe they're best considered psychologically. The more people sort themselves out, the more responsibility will take for the world around them, and the more problems they will solve. It is better, proverbially, to rule your own spirit than to rule a city. It's easier to subdue an enemy from without than from within. Maybe the environmental problem is ultimately spiritual. If we put ourselves in order, perhaps we will do the same for the world. Of course, what else would a psychologist think? Jordan Peterson, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a climate change denier. So this is his way of saying, like, fuck the environment and any policy that might help curb the disaster we are heading for at 200 miles per hour. Just deal with your own shit. This is the problem with Jordan. He tends to decide that problems are best solved by dealing with yourself. But that's not how big problems tend to get solved. The civil rights movement didn't happen because people of color went home and decided, let me change my own shit.
No. If you and I go home, clean our rooms, and get abs, we will save the world. Like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
It's putting this apathy up on a pedestal that it does not deserve. It's very unhealthy. It is my firm belief that the best way to fix the world, a handyman's dream, if ever there was one, is to fix yourself, as we discussed in Rule 6. Anything else is presumptuous. Anything else risks harm stemming from your ignorance and lack of skill. Again, the civil rights movement didn't happen because people of color went home and thought about their own issues. They had to say, no, we demand rights. Women didn't get the vote because they went home and were like, well, what am I doing wrong? That's not how things get done in society.
There's certainly some things that can be fixed by that. Like,
sure.
I don't know. Maybe, again, the obesity crisis. Maybe you could be like, hey, take responsibility for yourself and do some crunches. Like, maybe, but like...
Public policy still helps, though.
Right, so public policy, like making sure that children have proper nutrition in schools, is not something that a child can self-reflect on.
Teaching proper nutrition and making sure they understand calories and how that stuff works.
Having your parents make sure that they have a variety of healthy foods available and use positive reinforcement to make sure that those children like those things. These are not things that children can self-reflect on, even if they're big fatty boombaladdies. Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are external forces that need to be exerted in order for people to even have the opportunity to self-reflect and change themselves. So the idea that you need to set your own house in order is not the case. Sometimes other people need to set other houses in order. Sometimes people need to like set the way houses even are organized to allow people to set their houses in order.
It implies that no problem is ever potentially caused by something outside of yourself, which just like in the United States, for instance, healthcare is a big issue. People don't have affordable healthcare. If someone can't afford insulin, they can't fix that problem by going home and
get a better job.
Like, that's not how shit works. That doesn't help the millions and millions of people who need this shit,
right,
though.
Because not millions, 360 million people can't get a better job. At some point, there's a bottom level that needs to be filled out. And no matter what, you can't just say, grab your bootstraps and pull yourself up, because statistically speaking, everybody can't do that or nobody has it. So this is the fall in with, like, and I'm not even a socialist, but this is the problem with strict capitalism, where you don't acknowledge the fact that capitalism necessitates a bottom.
Yep.
You need a bottom so that there can be a top. And that's just how it's always worked. And he just, I don't know, he just doesn't seem to understand these sorts of things. And Rule 6 is probably the one I have the most, like,
problem with.
Yeah, from a philosophical standpoint, like, just as far as the self-help is concerned, because it nurtures this apathy to the rest of the world where, like, the gays will just figure that shit out by themselves. We don't need to vote for these things. We don't need to vote for climate change. It'll sort itself out. No. You can do both. You can set your house in order and also help other people set the rest of the world in order. It's very important. And so that one always, for lack of a better term, it triggers me.
And then the last thing he says in the coda: I hope that my writing has proved useful to you. I hope it has revealed things you knew that you did not know you knew.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I hope the ancient wisdom I discussed provides you with strength. It's not ancient wisdom, Jordan. You just have a lot of self-help platitudes along with conservative right-wing beliefs.
He's talking about, I hope the religious things I talked about help provide you spiritual strength.
Yeah. I hope it brightened the spark within you. I hope you can straighten up, sort out your family, and bring peace and prosperity to your community. I hope, in accordance with Rule 11, do not bother children when they are skateboarding, that you strengthen and encourage those who are committed to your care instead of protecting them to the point of weakness. I wish you all the best and hope that you can wish the best of others. What will you write with your pen of light? And that is Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
Which leads us to the very last section of this long-form book report. So, final thoughts.
Oh boy.
What are we going to rate this book?
No.
Okay, good, because it's about a 1 out of 12 for me. Get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Because it's 12.
The book is
Does it accomplish its goal of self-help?
I don't think it does.
Me either.
I think it's mostly platitudes.
Yeah.
That's just a
Some of which are useful. I will grant that some of the
Fine.
platitudes are useful.
Sure, but it's the same kind of crap you could get like
Exactly.
like Reddit has a get motivated subreddit, and it's a bunch of image macros of like sayings. Like it's nothing you couldn't get from a motivational poster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just stuff that has existed in the self-help sphere basically forever. And that's fine if those things help you. That's great, but there are better books and resources for that because he uses it as a framework on which to hang his right-wing, more conservative
Political beliefs.
Yeah, and he's trying to convince people in the sneaky way to follow those same beliefs and see those things not only as correct, but as, like, objectively apparent to everyone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's very harmful.
It follows, and the way he writes it, it's like Charlie's corkboard of red string, where you have to have a lot of context. You have to know a lot of Jordan Peterson stuff to actually understand what he's saying through his dog whistly ways. So seeing some of his debates, seeing some of his lectures, reading his words in other spaces like blog posts or interviews or fucking Twitter, you sort of get this what his intentions are behind certain things, and a lot of them are generally harmful in the way that you described, where there tend to be really conservative right wing, where women, you shouldn't be going out and having sex with people at bars, or you deserve to be sexually assaulted if you're drunk. You need to be mothers. You need to be considering motherhood very strongly instead of chasing your career, which apparently is a bad thing. Men, you need to be the moral arbiters of everything in society. Women need to be fostering men to be able to do so. Again, traditional marriage, like everything he brings up here is heterosexual, which I get from a heterosexual's point of view. I am one.
Sure.
Like you tend to skew that way anyway, since he is, he has his family. But even so, he doesn't even pay like lip service to kind of the different ways families can be made up of. So it ignores like a lesbian family has nothing at all to get from this book.
Yep, and his strict gender role things flying.
Right.
There's a reason why I think he's very against C16 and like sort of any opening of society to be more open and understanding to trans people as well, because it flies in the face of his positions on gender issues.
Right.
He wants a thick, bold line in the sand, and he doesn't want anyone to be fucking with his, like, model of how the world works.
What do you think his views would be if, like, a trans woman or a trans man fell directly into those gender roles? Would he be against them still?
I don't know if he'd be against them, but
because he seems to put so much stock in those roles.
They definitely make him uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
I don't know. And
he's an old guy, so I give people over the age of 50 a tiny pass as far as like their levels of uncomfortability with how pretty open most people my age and younger, like 30 and younger, we're pretty cool with, like, if you want to do a thing with your own body, do it. If you want to express a certain way, do it. Most people are cool with that. Anyone around 50 is starting to get pretty sketchy, so I get it. Like, they come from a pretty conservative background as far as their parents are concerned. Like, they went through the Summer of Love and then kind of like the conservative revolution with like the Nixon and Reagan and shit. And it's like, okay, you get a tiny pass. But when you have Jordan Peterson like actively like forcing people to legislate against those groups with something like decrying C16 and the other people that spawn out of this movement, it's like very harmful.
Yeah. So that's the book. That's going to be it for Jordan Peterson unless he writes...
well, he says he's going to write 12 more rules for life.
We'll do that when it comes out.
Yep.
But we're going to take a break from that. However, that does mean we need a new book to read.
A new book report, which means I want you to pay attention. There will be a straw poll in the description. I want you to open the description box, click on that link, and go to the straw poll. It's also available on the screen right now. We have 4 options for you. 2 fiction, 2 nonfiction. Okay? They get a little bit wild, but we want you to pick. Okay? We picked this one. We got a lot of requests for this one, but we picked it. Okay? We don't know what's about to happen. So, number 1 is Shapiro, True Allegiance. Some of you may be wondering, is that fiction or non-fiction? Oh, it's fiction. And it has a self-insert character that Ben Shapiro is he's sort of like Jack Bauer meets, he's an all-American hero. Like, I bet Ben Shapiro jacked off to White House Down every time, but he envisioned a yarmulke on Gerard Butler's head, and then he was like, ooh, yeah. Or at least maybe he wouldn't masturbate, because that's a sin, but whatever. So it's very good. You may have recognized this title from Chapo. They did a book report on True Allegiance and read some excerpts. So we'll be reading that chapter by chapter and doing a video on each chapter. I think it's roughly 300 pages, so it would take some time, but I think the videos would be shorter than like a Jordan Peterson.
Sure, because we'd just be pulling mostly interesting, funny excerpts from the story and summarizing.
Yeah, and depending on the pages, maybe we'll do 2 chapters or something, but could be fun. The next one.
William Johnstone, Trigger Warning. This some of you might see as familiar because Jenny Nichols, fellow YouTuber who I'm a big fan of, she did a short reading of this. This is a fiction book in which there is a red-blooded all-American veteran who's going to a college.
Does he have a chin strap goatee?
I don't know, but he's going to a college full of liberal snowflakes, and with their safe spaces, and then terrorists take over the college, and he goes die hard on that fuck. And the tagline on the book cover is, "There are no safe spaces."
Yeah, so that could be really good. So those are our 2 fiction books. We figured we'd open it up a little bit, see if there's some conservative wet dreams out there that you guys wanna read about. But now we get to nonfiction. And let me tell you, there's no greater horror story than nonfiction conservative writing. Back again, better than ever, Ben Shapiro's How to Debate Leftists and Destroy Them. You've seen him talk about this publicly. He's done a couple different things. I think it was at TPUSA or something similar to that. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. I have done a few streams in the past where Ben Shapiro's like, "This is how you fucking defeat somebody." No, it never works. It's pretty boring. But I do like the idea of moving from Christian, like this sort of apologetics from this to conservative apologetics.
A little bit. Yeah.
Woo! Woo! I like this. So this is, I don't know if this is my front runner because I really like the fiction ideas. Yeah. But it does get worse. It does get worse. So option number 4.
Oh God.
In nonfiction.
This one you're gonna definitely be familiar with if you're a fan of people like Miles Power. Or
Jeff Holiday.
Jeff Holiday's definitely done a lot of videos on this. Oh God,
We decided to dip our toe into some pseudoscience, guys.
Gillian Epperly's The Jilly Juice Protocol. Now, if you're not aware of that, Jeff Holiday does a really good series, A Song of Salt and Poo, which you should go check out. Gillian is a healer, let's say, who has come up with a miracle cure.
Cabbage, salt, and water.
That you ferment and then drink.
It's kind of like really shitty kimchi, and I use shitty as an operative word, because it makes you shit your brains out.
No, it makes you waterfall, Cheape. There's a difference.
Oh,
and she basically thinks it's a miracle cure, god damn it, that will not only cure the gay, but it'll help you it'll help you regrow limbs.
Yeah.
And cure your cancer.
It's a lot.
It's nonsense. And that one might be hard to get through because her writing style is it's
pretty rough.
It sounds like I read part of it before this, just so I could see, like, would this be viable? You can tell she's heard a lot of these words, but doesn't really know what they mean. Yeah. But she's gonna use them anyway.
This would be a rough one.
But it's shorter. It's a little bit shorter.
It is shorter. So we have 2 Ben Shapiros. William Johnstone's fever dream of a self-whack, and then we have Jilly Juice. So please vote for that down below. Whatever it is, it's totally free to vote, obviously. It's a quick link. Won't take any time at all. It works on mobile. Vote for that, see the results, and I think we'll let that go for a little bit, probably a week or so after the release of this video, and then we will decide which one to do. And we'll probably take a little time away from book reviews, and we'll order them, and we might even have the new studio before we do the next book review. But it will be happening, and it will be your fault. So,
God damn it. So that's it. Thank you all again for sitting through this whole series.
I'm so glad it's done. And by the way, we are basically a year to the day since we started this.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
We did roughly one a month.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that was pretty good.
Sure.
It took us a year to get through the book. It won't take us that long to get through the others, I don't think, because of the nature of them. But it will be a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, thank you all again. You can always follow us on Twitter at PapaBirdJake.
You can follow Hugo Reloaded. You could say, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You can help support the show on Patreon. There's a link in the description.
Yeah, we just changed that around, too, so it should be a lot of fun. We're going to move towards some more digital stuff. You're still going to get some physical rewards, but check it out if you haven't checked it out, because you will be getting more content there, so it should be fun.
You can also send stuff to our P.O. Box, books if you want us. Again, the books take longer than movies, so if you send us books, we'll definitely consider them for stuff in the future, but of course, as we're doing one book at a time, you know, don't assume if you send us a book, we'll definitely do it, but it'll at least get put on the consideration list.
Absolutely. You can also send us videos and stuff. But I think, what do you think? Next week we'll do something probably easier.
Wheel, probably.
Probably a wheel.
Yeah.
Sure. So, I think that's it. Thanks again for going through the Jordan Peterson with us. Glad it's over. I'm very glad it's over. He is so pretentious.
Yeah.
It's really hard to fucking sit there and read. You hate narcissism. I hate pretension in writing so much. Like, use real people words. You can have these hard concepts, right? But you don't need to, like, be poetic about it in this really self-serving way.
He's overly flowery to the point of making me gaggy.
Yeah.
We should start doing book wheel things. If we get a bunch of books, we'll start doing book wheel. Like we do a series if you only watch this series, for instance, where we watch bad Christian movies and put them on a wheel and spin it. Very original idea. Yeah. Sorry for stealing that, Rich Evans.
R.I.P. Rich.
But he
was a good lad.
Maybe we'll do a book one and we'll just read excerpts as opposed to the whole book from some of them. Which wouldn't necessarily
We'll roll a dice and pick chapters.
Yeah, sure. Something like that.
Sure.
Anyway, until next time, I'm Hugo.
I'm Jake.
And this has been Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life on Hugo and Jake. See you guys next time. That was good.